Squeeze you all in. Yeah, yeah, squeeze. So platforms and publishers can coexist, it seems. So we're going to get them to introduce themselves. But I'm really lucky to have these four women with us. They've got so much tappable knowledge we can get into and really share with everyone. And I'm going to invite them to do short intros, and we'll get this started. We'll start with Dina from Google.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dina Amin, and I look after publisher partnerships for Google across the Middle East and Africa. So while I'm in camp platform for this debate, I actually look after publishers as well.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kinda Ibrahim. I lead the partnerships team for Twitter Middle East, North Africa. And what we do is we work with media partners, including broadcasters, publishers, and influencers or creators to help them increase their reach, engagement, and monetize over the platform.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lorna, and I am a digital journalist for the BBC World News. So I was also a TV journalist, and now I focus on digital and social media.
Excellent. Dima.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dima Khatib. Who follows AJ Plus here? AJ Plus. I'm the managing director of AJ Plus, and I used to be a TV journalist, written press journalist, radio journalist. I've been through it all. I'm very happy to be here to talk about the latest experience in my life as a digital journalist in AJ Plus.
Excellent. Thanks, Dima. Thanks, Dima. So the publisher used to own content, distribution, marketing, and the consumer. We used to never invite a technology partner to such a debate. But today, with the publishers on one side and the platforms on the other, I'm hoping for some debate. Let's see where it takes us. So we're going to start with a very cliche question, but important to start with. Is content still king, or has it been toppled by distribution? So does it matter where we read it? Who says it? Dima, you want to start?
Content is queen, since I'm a woman, obviously. I do believe content is king or queen, because if we did not produce good content, people would run away from the platforms. What would they be looking for if there was no good content? And in our experience as AJ Plus, we put out a good video. It goes viral because it's good. Sometimes it's not of a great journalistic value, but it helps us reach more audiences. So when we put something of a better value, it reaches those audiences, and they get hooked because it is a good content
How
that
do you
they
balance
like.
the two? You said not very good, not to
I said
paraphrase.
you have to balance.
Yeah.
You have to balance. Some people will not be appealed by the best content you make. So what you do is you give them the kind of content they may like to just have fun. When you have really valuable content about a humanitarian story, that's when you have already reached them, they're already following you, and they will pay attention to it, and they will get hooked because it is good.
How do you feel about the changing algorithms and how to deal with environments that you're not used to? Where you said you were a TV journalist, you knew what would, when, and how it would be distributed.
Right, but even in TV, we used to depend on cable networks and satellite. And they used to manipulate things all the time and change contracts. In Latin America, where I worked for 10 years, it was very difficult to distribute because they had their terms. I don't see much difference between that and the algorithms, because you just have to learn how to navigate. It's just like sailing. You have to adapt to the winds and to the currents of the sea. And I don't see it really as something that hinders us from reaching our audience. I see it as an opportunity to work harder to see how we can reach new audiences. If there was not this obstacle, we would not make such an effort to reach all those audiences we think we're missing out on.
Absolutely.
So I'm
I
going
have
to move
to say,
you.
can I jump in and
Yeah,
just
of course.
say, I have to say that from a platform's perspective, I can't say it's either content or distribution. It has to be a combination of both. And it's really important for publishers to find that right balance, depending on their business model, about which one they want to lever more. And this really comes back to the subject of this panel, which is the user. And it's because of the dramatic change of user behavior that we've seen over the last 10, 15 years, where users now have the ability to decide what content they want, when they want it, and through the mobile and the tablet are really in control of the news.
I just need to add to that, actually, and I totally agree with Dina here. It's not either or. Actually, we live in an age where user is king, because users decide what content they want to consume, what format of content, where to find it, what platform. So basically, it's It's the responsibility of publishers and platforms to work together to make sure the best content gets to user at the right format and the right time.
I think no one doubts. I mean, there isn't a publisher that's not on platforms. There's no doubt that the marriage is there. You know, there's love now. Honeymoon phase maybe is still waiting for a great balance between the two. But there's a stat I really came across by the Digital Content Next Association, which is good for both. It found that 57% of the time, people are aware of which title they're clicking on when they're reading on social media. 57% of the time, they know the publisher. It's clear. There's still 40%. It needs work. It'll get there. But, I mean, Lorna, what's your take on, you see this feed of content. Yeah. BBC, Huffington Post, AJ+, Sabak, Anghami, so much content in the region. Then users, sharing, comments. Can a user, not a savvy user, let's say, really know the different sources? How do you feel about that as a user?
Well, I think that's the, as Dima was saying, that's part of our job to establish like our trust so that our audience comes and looks for our content. I mean, can you establish, yeah, every organization has a different style. And I think, yes, we are flooded with information. We're flooded with video shares on social media, and it can be a bit overwhelming. But I think that's our job to try and make sure that our stuff stands out,
Dima, do you feel, Dina, go ahead.
So there's research out there also that suggests that users now are actually preferring the algorithm to what editors provide. Okay. So over 50% of users prefer to get recommendations from their friends or recommendations based on what they previously read on content rather than what editors are providing. So there's also an element of these news feeds, while the brand may not be so prevalent to the user, they might not be so aware of the brand, it's actually delivering what the user, wants.
I think we all want to sift through the thousands of content, and you want the valuable content that your friends read to come to the top. Dima, you seem to be itching to say something.
I think it's a very competitive market, extremely competitive. And the fact that it is competitive and that anybody, now any one of you can produce great content and can go viral and can become very famous in a matter of hours.
Exactly.
And that makes it wonderful for all of us to work hard. And regarding the publishers, what you said, I agree with you, obviously. It's a great marriage. But it's still, in my marriage, you have to work hard to keep the marriage happy and continuous.
True.
So, I don't see the publishers as, many journalists see the algorithms as the enemies of journalists. I don't see it like that. I think it's something that we work with. And I think the opportunities that the platforms give us to widen reach are also something that we need to just bank on the right way. That's the key, is how do we work together to take those opportunities in a way that serves our brand. And to be honest, I don't mind if somebody watches the AJ Plus video and doesn't realize it's AJ Plus. I want to get the message through. Yeah. It's not about me making money on people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's not the message of AJ Plus, at least. It is about getting the story through. It's about keeping journalism alive despite all the changes that have happened. It's about making people appreciate the stories that matter to them in the best ethical way possible. Yeah. So this is what matters to me. It's not about them recognizing AJ Plus for doing that. It's about them seeing the children of Syria and seeing what happened to them. Or telling the story, if we're telling the story of a boy maybe coming out to help that boy, which happens a lot with AJ Plus with our stories, that people react and they take action based on the story. Now that matters to me much more than them finding out whether it was AJ Plus or Google or Twitter or Facebook.
But you're an MD. As an MD, you run a business. You need to make money. You need to have long-term sustainability to your shareholders, government. I'm not. But in the end, there is a return. I'm not fully aware. Is AJ Plus profit-led or?
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. If you were given the choice between money, cash, and influence in a market like the US, where you get a straight window, a straight tunnel into the brains of the future adults of the United States of America, which one would you want?
Influence.
Of course, as a human.
Yeah,
but as
you
a
want
business,
influence. But
as a
because
human, yes,
with
and
the money,
I
what are you
applaud
going to
the
buy
effort.
with the money? So I go for influence rather than money. If I have an opportunity to make money, I will make the money. If that making money opportunity jeopardizes my journalistic ethics,
Yes, fair
then
enough.
I will not go for it. And I think the opportunity that AJ Plus has, thank you. I think the opportunity that AJ Plus has in the US market and now in other markets, in the Mexican market, now we're invading Latin America and obviously AJ Plus Arabic, but the one we have in America in particular, it's the first non-US news outlet that manages to go into millions and millions and millions of millennial brains every day. I'm telling them the story of Palestine from my point of view. I'm giving them an alternative way to think about their own surroundings, about Black Lives Matter, about indigenous matters, about Trump, about everything else that surrounds them. Now that is much more valuable to me than money.
For sure, that's fair, and we applaud you for that. But again, and I think I need to hear from someone else as well, to add that there's 1,000 other publishers
Right.
who cannot. They want to balance that. I don't think very few people really don't want what you want.
Quartz,
but-
sorry, Quartz is an example of, they are saying they're making profit.
Yeah,
That's the only one I found. But to be honest, I am not up to profit, and I understand it's very difficult for other publishers to survive if it's a business model where you have to survive on the profit you make. It's not that easy. And Facebook, for example, doesn't give the opportunity to monetize to everybody in the same way. They choose the publishers they want to make money with. So it's tough. If you have a business model, it's tough, and you have to go for maybe sponsored content, you have to go for direct ads, and it doesn't look good when it says sponsored, you know? Like,
But-
even-
well, yeah, I
just
agree, and the
people
model
feel,
needs
people
work.
feel
Lorna?
you're using them to make money, and that doesn't, you know, that doesn't go very well with your users if they think you're giving them the real story.
Fair enough. We agree on
Can I just
journalism,
add
no
one
doubt.
thing here, just to support what Dima's
Yeah.
saying? So independent, strong storytelling is at the heart of news.
Yeah.
And that is what I think every platform, particularly Google, will say
Yeah.
is what we need to see from news organizations. It's great to hear that AJ Plus is super clear on what their business model and their objective is. And that's what I would ask for all news publishers, is to really have a clear understanding of
Yeah.
what their business model is and what they're trying to achieve. Is it reach? Is it monetization?
Dina,
Because it won't be
Dina,
a one-size-all
Dina, who's
for
paying for this?
everyone.
Who's paying for it? Google, Facebook takes 70 to 80% of digital ad dollars. So no one's denying these great technology products and the ability to push truth to the world. No one's denying that. The issue is there's an ecosystem that is not generating money. Lorna was sharing with me before about the pressure or direction she had to create. Tell us more about the headlines you had to get involved in, how you had the effort, the pressure you're under as an editor to create traffic. And I think it's important to balance that between great initiative, great platforms, but also there's thousands of publishers writing misleading headlines or teasing headlines, and I think there's a debate there on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, but I stand by what Dima said, and I feel like it should be quality over quantity. But we are running, we are running into a problem where we are, having to like put out too many articles or these videos, and we're just saturating it. We should be concentrating on producing good quality content that,
But how were you pressured? You shared you were pressured to scale.
Yeah, I mean, there's always pressure in terms of like, what you write, the headlines, the tease, the way you position an article on a website, which article you prominent, because on a daily basis, there are hundreds of articles going out, just thinking of on a website alone. And how do you get your article seen?
I just want to actually add on 2 points. First, on the content quality versus versus quantity. But we're underestimating how sophisticated the user is becoming. So the user sees a clickbait, lands on the website the first time, sees content that is not of a high quality, second time, third time, they're not going to come back. This is not a winning strategy to build a long-lasting audience. That's one. On going back to the point of reach versus monetization, it's actually not either or. And the right strategy, in my opinion, is for publishers to basically balance their monetizing strategy on and off their platforms, so that they basically can get the maximum they can get out of these platforms. There are solutions out there where for example, at Twitter, we work with publishers to pair their content with advertiser pre-rolls in a safe environment, in a way where publishers agree to basically the categories and advertisers that they compare their content to, and vice versa, because also, this is for advertisers who are looking to pair their branding message with quality content.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the pressure that journalists feel, the views, the number of views. We have to get the number of views up there because we need to be on the tubular classification. We need to rank up. And this is really terrible for a journalist to think that they're after views. In AJ Plus, we're not after views, although views matter, because through the people that you reach, you will make the engagement that you want and you will have the impact. So the idea is, how do you not put the journalists under the pressure of wanting to generate views for just views? And we know on Facebook it's just a few seconds. On YouTube it's higher, so every platform is different. But how do you not make the journalists feel they have to produce views versus impact? That's a huge challenge on a daily basis for any newsroom that is making news or making even entertainment. It's one of my biggest challenges with the journalists, and I always try and make them think engagement is key, because the number of views is not usually realistic.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can pay Facebook and you can reach a lot of people who've never watched a video. It's just scrolled through their page and it shows as a view, and it's not really, the retention rate is very low. Now that's not a valuable view for me. So that is the real pressure for us, plus the pressure of, if you want to make money, a journalist will always go like, no, my mission, my ethics, and they'll panic. So you need to create a culture where people are not afraid of taking a risk, sometimes trying things out, experimenting. And you also need the right people to make the journalists feel that we're not taking away from you the power of journalism. You can do both sometimes. Obviously, you have to be very cautious not to lose your brand image or whatever it is that is valuable to you. And that's where the challenge is.
But how does
And when it comes to actually making the money, if that's what a news organization wants, if it's a priority to monetize, platforms do provide the tools in order to help publishers, news publishers make money. So Google, for example, worked with over 2 million publishers last year and paid out over $16.8 billion back to publishers. So those tools are also there and provided by platforms.
But all statistics show that over 80% of publishers are not making enough money and are not profitable. So there is money going to the ecosystem, there is distribution, no one doubts that, but it's not enough. And there's this drive for scale. And today, who owns the consumer? Who owns the consumer? You are renting, on some level, the consumer from a platform. Don't you feel the risk of that few years down the road? And I think the platforms are great, are offering scale, are offering so much monetization. But in the end, the question of the debate today is that relationship with the consumer. Is it direct, indirect? Tomorrow, a platform can become a publisher as well. So where is the risk in that, and where is the, don't think about that? You don't consider that, Dima?
Yeah,
go ahead.
So I would start by saying I don't think anybody owns the consumer, because I don't think the consumer wants to be owned from the first instance. And the second instance is, if there was going to be any who would have more a stronger relationship with the consumer, it would be the party who understands the consumer and understands the user behavior.
Again, it's about the synergy between publishers and platforms to provide the consumer what they're looking for, the right format at the right time. So
we don't want to get into users discovering news, later finding out it's not true. There's a lot of that. So we're not going to debate that. Everyone's trying hard to fix this problem. But it's not true. Users are discovering content, finding out days later, it's not true. This guy did not die. The amount of time Justin Bieber died is incredible. And someone has to take responsibility. It's the publishers coming back, at least fact-checking and replying. But initially, they were just retweeting, resharing. And so No, the owning of the consumer is more about that relationship. No one wants to own anyone, but it's about the relationship. I personally feel there's a major gray area now, and it comes even to data sharing, understanding. I don't think anyone's really touched upon that. I don't know. I think we're talking about reaching as many people as possible. But what about the relationship?
I think users are not the same they used to be because they have so many options and they can be actors themselves. As in, they contact us and they say, the guy you showed in your video, AJ Plus, is actually alive, is not dead. We contact that person, we find out where they got the information, we change the video and we apologize.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Why would I see that in any negative way? Actually, users are more conscious and more aware than ever before, and they have this opportunity, thanks to the new platforms, which are interactive, to be part of the story and to be part of creating a new story or correcting a story. So it's a matter of trust between them. And back to the point of who owns the consumer, I don't want to own anyone. In a marriage, you don't want to own your husband or your wife, I hope.
Well, the king is...
and this is like becoming... but I mean, it's a matter of earning this trust again, over and over and over every day. That's all it's about. Just like in any relationship between 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, you need to build that trust and keep earning it every day. And if you do that, it's also the user that has to earn the trust, because if they come every day and tell us that this guy is not dead in our video, and every time we contact them, they're not telling us the truth, then we will not listen to them anymore.
So let's talk about the ecosystem, just for a sec. Today, publishers are investing more and more. They're not generating revenue fast enough. There's pressure to scale. Advertisers want cheap clicks and cheap views. This is causing a major... Let's talk about the industry. Everyone's trying to help, but we're still not touching upon that there are brands appearing on really crappy sites. There's a system of driving scale at the expense of the consumer, and we're acting like, no, everything's great, we work together. There are problems here. And I don't think it's only about getting the message out there. I think there's truth, there's honesty, there's... and from what I'm seeing, people are just driven to get the cheapest click and are doing whatever advertisers want. Yes, AJ Plus is a bit different, and I like to hear that. But I think we should talk about the sector. What would you advise the next 200 publishers in your sector to do if they're going to be profitable and have an aim like yourself? What would you advise?
Yeah, since I don't have that challenge on a daily basis, I don't think I'm entitled to give them advice that may work. But I don't see much difference between that and when I was working for television and we had sponsors for Faisal Qasim's program, or even for small shows, we had ads in the middle of our shows. It's the same thing, it's just a different scale, it's just a different way. TV had to survive also on ads, and it's just a matter of us adapting to those new changes. Yeah. It's been the same challenge all along in media. Same thing in newspapers. When you go and you have an ad that is like 1 page long, it's disturbing, but you have to do it, and people get used to it. For example, YouTube consumers, they're very used to the ads. They just skip it, they don't mind. I feel that other platforms that have tried this may not have the same kind of mentality as the users of YouTube, so they get disturbed by it. Whereas the same person on YouTube doesn't get disturbed by an ad, they get disturbed by the same ad on a different platform because they are going to that platform in a different mentality. So those are the kind of things we need to understand and deal with, so we get to that balance that you're talking about for publishers who have to make money. I think learning every day, read, learn every day, find out about your users. Why do they come to see you on YouTube? Why do they come to see you on Twitter? And why and when and how and who? And that's how you will get to choose the right publicity and the right ads for the right platform and for the right user.
So when the platform changes their algorithm and your views drop by 40%, and this is why
you get a heart attack when you're an MD.
This is the question of who owns the consumer. We're saying content is king, but someone else is controlling distribution. And so
But again, it used to be the same way with cable networks and with satellite. It was really, trust me, I've been through this experience, and cable companies used to control a lot on when they suddenly change the place of your channel on the numbers of the users, so they don't see you on top of when they go home in the first few clicks. Trust me, they're the same kind of intricacies.
Fair enough. The
We just have to
distribution's
deal
always been there. Print had to pay at the supermarket. That's fair, no doubt.
I just need to take, because I actually don't agree that, algorithm determine the distribution. I speak on behalf of Twitter. Basically, yes, we've changed the algorithm where you'd see at the top of the feed, basically, the accounts that you interact with the most, but you can just refresh, and then you get basically a chronological feed with basically what happens, like based on what happened latest. And this exposes the user to content that he's interested in, is basically he's following, and also through search and discovery and the hashtag, it exposes you to a lot more publishers that you actually didn't know exist, and didn't know basically you're not necessarily following them. So it's a very broad statement to say that algorithm determine distribution. It's not necessarily.
There's a wealth of content out there, and platforms have helped discovery. Sorry,
So I would agree with what Kinda's saying. The way that you've described the ecosystem, I think, is quite an extreme way of looking at the ecosystem. And in probably 99% of the cases, the platforms and the algorithms work as intended. In the cases where things, don't work as intended, you have the platforms actively working to improve their algorithms, actively working to improve the way that that systems work, and working very closely with publishers to do that. So again, it's back to that marriage.
I think it became publisher versus platform a bit, but I think we have time for a question.
That's what you wanted, huh, from the beginning?
No, I mean, I wanted platforms versus publishers, but we are living in a new economy, and I think we know that we are going to live together, and that's why, the question is content or platform king? It's a tough one to answer. I think, any questions on the floor? Here, excellent. Can we pass the mic? Here, let me go. There you go.
So, very fast question. So you agree with me that the platforms essentially want to keep their users as interested as possible with whatever they're delivering as content. And so by this sense, they will filter out whatever content they have so that the user will have what he wants to see. And my question is then, doesn't this stop the user from seeing information that he's not necessarily interested in, but that is important?
I think users are very intelligent today. They know. They will go and find out.
Yeah.
They will go and search for whatever they want, and then the algorithm will put that back in. I don't think people get so lost. I think someone who wants to follow someone, they will realize they have disappeared from their wall, and they will go and look for them. It takes a click. I think people make that effort, and I have experience with our users of AJ Plus that suddenly they feel, oh, AJ Plus is not appearing. So I always answer, well, maybe you're not interacting with us enough. Show us some love, and we'll be back on your wall.
Are they your users?
Huh?
Are they your users?
AJ, well, it's the same. We share the same space. You're back. You want.
And that is the question. If incorrect news comes on the feed, people would like to assume it's true.
Yeah.
Because they don't always know the source. This is, I think, the debate that's being held on how do we find a way to validate. And I think the platforms are finding ways to validate sources, give more weight to companies like AJ Plus, trusted news organizations. And I think this is answering for the platforms. But this is what we'd like to see, and we're seeing more and more. My feed is more and more original publishers. The problem is monetization, is thirst for scale, yes, but I think everyone has the right intent to make things better.
You're absolutely right, and it's only by working together that things will be made better. But just on the verification side, Google just very recently launched a new label that helps users identify when news has been verified by an authoritative source. So that's now going to be visible to the user, so it also is an additional way to verify.
Good. Any other questions? Yeah, great. Maybe we'll leave a mic down. Ah, you got one? Good.
Hi guys, my name is Virginia. I run a Snapchat agency, and I'm curious to know, what do you guys do to build your community, right? To actually engage with your people, and like, what would you say is sort of the energy, the brand messaging while building that community?
Who are you directing it to? Anyone?
Yeah, to everyone.
To everyone. Great.
Yeah, I'll just briefly say that, for example, at AJ Plus, when there is a hot topic that's going on, we make a newsletter. We actually send emails to our followers.
Wow.
They sign up on our landing page. We send them emails. And we have a new project right now, which is interactive, and people can tell us their stories, and we will publish their stories. And it's working very well for about racism, for example, in the US. So people are directly sending us their stories, and we are publishing their stories. We do a lot of that. The newsletter works really, really well when you know how to hit the right tone at the right time, and that's when you find out that they are your users. When you send them newsletters to their email box and they actually respond and they actually interact. We do these kind of things all the time. We sometimes do also testing on WhatsApp. We send people messages and people have to send us their feedback or their stories, and they actually do. And we use that and we compile it and we make it a bigger story, or we make a live out of it and we talk to people, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Anyone else wants that?
Like social media, really. On all platforms, we're on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We ask viewers to contact us with their stories, like Dima was saying, with their questions, topics that they want us to cover. So yeah, we realize that most of our key audience is on social media. So that's that's a big thing for us now.
Is there a specific platform you find more exciting, more for community connection?
For me, Snapchat. But I'm a Snapchat and an Instagram person, and I think that now with Instagram stories, we can give our viewers something that they wouldn't get from an online article or from a TV program. We're giving them a backstage, and we're keeping them hooked. Really, we're getting them. They're going to us. They're thinking, okay, we're going to see something cool, and then hopefully they're telling their friends about it. And
Excellent.
I just want to add from a Twitter perspective. So basically, that's what we do. We work with publishers to give them tools, products, best practices that help them in basically building the community. Twitter being an open and public platform, it makes it very easy for the engagement. As Dima mentioned, they get feedback about, be it through email or through Twitter, a comment on a video on basically what would they like to see more. And we've seen, not necessarily in the publisher business, we've seen CEOs of big companies do it. They ask users on Twitter, what would you like? What kind of new features would you like? So that helps with the community.
Do you know anything to?
Well, in my day-to-day job, what I do is actually I help publishers keep the users on their site, so not necessarily on platforms. And we provide them with tools such as being able to understand their audiences better that will help them generate new audiences or help audiences return back to them.
You shared with me before that Google believes in a free
and open web.
Open web. And this is a topic of debate has been on free and open web, free speech. Is there limits to free speech what it could lead to, and where ads are appearing on certain sites that the consumer is on, but brands do not want to be on those sites? Is Google doing anything about that, or is that against the free and open type mentality?
So it's a really big challenge that Google takes very seriously. As you said, Google at its core believes in a free and open web, in that people should be able to give their point of view, to be able to create websites, to create content that they feel is necessary, and let audiences find that content. So it's a real challenge. But in the instances where content has been flagged for inappropriateness or extreme sensitivity such as violence, Google does take action such as completely removing advertising or demonetizing.
So it's only after being flagged?
It has to be. Google does not police the web.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And Dima, I think, so Google doesn't police the web, but publishers are scrutinized if you have a fact wrong, you have you post something which is not fully accurate, you have from a good source, but no one challenges you. The platforms can take that. We're not the publisher. We don't own the content. Do you feel they should be scrutinized?
By the users. I have daily battles on Twitter. I mean, I wake up sometimes at 4 a.m. and I find there's a hashtag against me from Palestine because the video that we published at 2 a.m. showed a child that his name is misspelled, for example. And like all of Palestine has woken me up on Twitter to tell me, Dima, how could you do this to us? You are Palestinian. How could you misspell the name of the child in our village? And this is the kind of interaction you have with your users, and this is why you know that you matter to them, because they will rise when you make a mistake or when you offend them on where they are not happy, and sometimes they're wrong from our point of view to be unhappy about something, because sometimes they don't like the truth about their own life. So you just have to stand up for them. Sometimes I have to answer each one in private messages or each reply, and I spend hours doing that myself. And sometimes I just write a statement on Twitter or on my personal Facebook to discuss or to answer whatever it is that the users are raising. So I think it is the users that challenge us more than anything else, and I'm very happy about that. I'd rather the user challenges me than anyone with authority, because the user has the best authority there is, which is their story. They are the ones that matter most to us.
Of course. So we're going to have to wrap this up.
Agreed.
We'll leave it with a final question. Start with Dina. So if you're going to have to choose, yes, we know content and platform are coexisting. But if content or platform is king, which one would you choose?
It's a hard choice.
One word, content or platform.
It has to be who understands the user.
Oh, Dina. Kinda, you gonna try?
It's user. User is king.
User is king. Wow. But who owns the user? Who has the relationship with the user? Nice. Lorna?
Content.
Content.
Obviously.
At least we disagreed a bit at the end. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that.